The shocking truth. Poor girl saves old man, but his dark secret will haunt you forever. The rain fell heavy that night, pounding against the pavement like an urgent heartbeat. In the heart of the city, desperate shadows flickered under the streetlights. It was an ordinary night until 13-year-old Lila rushed through the alley, her sneakers splashing in puddles, her heart pounding for a reason she couldn't understand. Suddenly, she spotted him, an old man, crumpled against a wall, his gray beard soaked and wild, eyes wide with fear. He looked like he crawled out of a nightmare. "Help me," he croaked, as if the words were torn from his throat. Lila's chest tightened. She hesitated, fear wrapping around her like a cold hand, squeezing. But there was something in his gaze, something pleading that pulled her forward. What could be lurking behind those sunken eyes? As she rushed to his side, the atmosphere crackled with a strange energy. Was she insane for helping a man who looked like he belonged in the shadows? He clutched her arm, his fingers icy against her skin. "They're coming," he whispered, eyes darting around like frightened birds. That sent a chill straight through her. Who was coming for him? Her instincts screamed to run, but something deeper held her there, pushing her to discover the truth. And so, the world around them faded. The city noise dimmed, the rain became distant, and Lila was left standing in a bubble of trepidation and curiosity. "I can hear them," he shouted suddenly, his voice shaking like a leaf in a storm. "You must listen. They know my secret." Panic surged through her. What secret? She instinctively stepped back, feeling the weight of his words settle in the air. Then, just as suddenly as it started, everything went quiet. The world held its breath. What secrets could possibly lie within this man? Would the revelation shatter her life forever? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. And then, just when Lila thought she could unravel the old man's mystery, a deafening noise erupted from down the alley, heavy footsteps, echoing with urgency, growing closer. The man's expression shifted, morphing into sheer terror. "Run!" he screamed. The words hung in the air, charged with an unspoken warning. Who was pursuing him? Would Lila face danger head-on, or would she run? The next moments could change everything, horrifically so. Would she stand by him, or flee from the truths destined to haunt them both? Lila's heart raced as she looked back at the old man, wide-eyed and trembling. His fear was infectious, and the footsteps behind them grew louder, filling the air with an impending sense of doom. Every muscle in her body screamed to run, but she hesitated, rooted to the spot by the weight of his urgency. "Please," he rasped, his grip tightening on her arm. "You have to trust me." The shadows lengthened, creeping closer. Lila glanced into the dark abyss of the alley. She could barely see, but the menacing figures were converging, their outlines shifting like dark phantoms. With every beat of her heart, they felt more substantial, more real, and her breath quickened. "What do they want?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. She didn't need to ask for an explanation. She knew it was serious, deadly serious. "They know I can't escape. Whatever you do, don't let them take you too." He pulled her urgently, dragging her instincts back to the situation. The thunder of feet was relentless, drowning out her thoughts. Lila's mind raced as adrenaline surged through her tiny frame. Who were these people chasing him? Was she really prepared to face them? The decision weighed heavily. Fight or flight? "Follow me." The old man turned and staggered deeper into the shadows, leading her through a narrow passage that twisted beneath the buildings. Lila barely kept up, her feet slipping against the wet cobblestones. The alley was a maze, each turn promising danger and a potential escape. They emerged into a small courtyard, dimly lit by a flickering lamp. A dumpster loomed nearby, and an old bicycle lay abandoned, rusting away to nothing. Lila wanted to dart for the exit, but the old man's presence tethered her to the spot. Panting, he leaned against the wall. "Listen carefully," he whispered, locking his eyes on hers, still filled with terror. "They're looking for something I have." A secret that could ruin lives. His voice cracked. You mustn't let them find you. If they know you're here, it'll be too late. But what is the secret? Lila pressed, her curiosity stronger than her fear. The tension in the air thickened, wrapping around them. He inhaled sharply, trembling. I can't tell you yet. You have to trust me. There's a reason I'm alive, and a reason you found me. Just then, a shadow flickered in the courtyard, and instinctively, they pressed against the wall, hearts pounding like a war drum. Lila's stomach dropped as she caught sight of two dark figures striding through the entrance of the alley, their silhouettes ominous and threatening. Where is he? One of them growled, scanning the area. He can't be far. He knows too much. The old man's breathing quickened, his eyes darting around for an escape. Lila felt the heat of his panic. The fear, the desperation coursed through her veins. She wanted to scream, to flee, but her body wouldn't respond. Lila, he murmured, this is going to be dangerous. With no clear idea of what to do next, she swallowed hard, her throat dry as fear tightened around her. She glanced toward the dark mouth of the alley, still hearing the hunters drawing closer. Stay behind me, he instructed, taking a deep breath. What was he planning? Before she could process anything further, the old man stepped out from behind the wall, a wild glint in his eyes. I'm right here, he shouted, defiance rippling in his voice. Old fool. One of the figures sneered, stepping forward with menacing intent. The moment hung in the air, charged with danger. Lila felt her heart stop. Would they fight? Would they run? And what would the man reveal to her as everything spiraled into chaos? She took a faltering step forward, unwilling to be left behind. What waited in the shadows felt more terrifying than the knowledge of the old man's truth. What secrets lay in those shadows, and would they change everything she thought she knew? Stay back, the old man barked. His voice trembled, but there was a gravity to it that cut through the air like a knife. Lila pressed herself against the wall, adrenaline and fear swirling in her chest. Fool, you think we're scared of an old man? The figure sneered, stepping forward with a calculated menace, the dim light casting a harsh shadow across his lean face. Lila's stomach churned at the cold, calculated malice she saw. In that fraught moment, time seemed to stretch. She watched as the old man straightened, defiance flickering in his eyes like the dying lamp above. You can't take what you don't understand. His voice rose, cracking with age but laced with resolve. Quickly, Lila needed to decide. Should she join this man in his stand, or would she only put herself in greater danger? She felt the pull of fear, a heavy chain around her heart. What do we do? She whispered, barely able to contain the panic rising in her throat. Run, the old man shouted, the command snapping her back to reality. Without another thought, Lila charged toward the shadows, trusting her instincts and following the old man's lead. She sprinted past him, and the world around her blurred a cacophony of the echoing footsteps and the ragged breaths of her own terror. Behind her, she heard the men curse as they shifted their focus. She glanced back just in time to see the first figure lunge towards them, a flash of steel glinting in his hand. Go, Lila, he yelled, urgency fueling his voice. She didn't look back again. They surged through another alley, sharp corners and low overheads, heartbeats pounding like war drums as sheer instinct drove her forward. The damp stones squelched beneath her shoes, and she could feel the fear radiating from the old man beside her, yet also something else, an odd spark of strength that ignited her determination. Where are we going? She gasped, stealing glances behind them. The hunters were relentless, shadowy figures silhouetted against the flickering streetlights. To a safe place, he wheezed, his breath uneven. We can't let them catch us suddenly. He stumbled, nearly colliding with a crate stacked haphazardly. Lila felt her heart lurch at the sight of him struggling. We need to keep moving, she urged, grasping his arm. Help me, he gasped, his body convulsing with the effort. Lila could hear the raw desperation in his voice. But with every moment they lingered, she felt the hunters closing in, shadows on their heels, a dark promise lurking just behind them. Then, a siren wailed far off, splitting the night, a piercing sound that echoed in the stillness, fading in and out. The old man lifted his head, eyes wide. They'll hear that. We won't have long. He pointed to a rusted door barely visible in the shadows, camouflaged against the bricks. In there. Quickly. Lila hesitated for a second, every fiber of her being screaming at her to escape the nightmare. But she couldn't leave him. If he died, if they caught him, then all would be lost. They rushed towards the door. She turned the handle, and it creaked open just as the footsteps echoed louder behind them. She shoved the old man through, courage forcing her forward. Just as her foot crossed the threshold, she felt a hand crash against her back, pushing her violently aside. Before she could grasp what had happened, she found herself on the cold concrete floor, gasping in shock and fear. The door slammed shut with a resounding thud, leaving the old man on the other side. "No!" she screamed, her voice piercing the air as she scrambled to her feet. But the dark figures loomed closer, their predatory eyes locked onto her. This wasn't the end. It couldn't be. Just as she felt the cold sting of fear gripping her throat, a chilling laugh echoed from behind the door. The old man's voice, now muffled, sent an icy dread straight to her heart. "What do you want?" she called out, feeling the walls closing in and a fresh wave of terror coursing through her. Then silence fell heavy. What lay ahead in that darkness? And would she find a way to uncover the truth before it swallowed her whole? The air thickened with tension as Lila stood alone in the dim light of the narrow room, the lingering echo of the old man's voice fading into nothingness. Panic surged, knotting her stomach as shadows danced around her, twisting and shifting with every flicker of the dying bulb overhead. The silence felt alive, as if it was watching her, waiting for her next move. She pressed her shoulder against the door, as if it might somehow reopen and let her back into that chaotic street. "Open up," she shouted, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. Her pulse pounded in her ears, the beats like warning bells echoing the urgency of her situation. But no answer came, only the weight of that chilling laughter lingered in the air like a ghost. Desperation tinged her thoughts. What was happening out there? She could hear muffled words from the other side, but they were indistinct, lost behind the heavy wooden barrier. Her gaze darted around the room, taking in the grimy walls and a single barred window that offered a glimpse of the moody night sky. Freedom seemed so tantalizingly close, yet utterly unattainable. Driven by instinct, Lila searched for a way out, her fingers brushing against a cold, metallic object resting on the floor. It was a wrench, slick with grease, not much, but possibly a tool for survival. She gripped it tightly, her knuckles whitening as she thought only of escaping. Then, the silence shattered. A loud thud against the door made her jump. "Lila." The old man's voice was sharp, raw with urgency. "Listen to me. Are you okay?" Her voice cracked, fear bouncing back at her as she spoke. "I'm fine, but they're coming for you. You must find the passage." He spoke with an intensity that sent chills skittering down her spine. Lila's heart raced. "What passage? I don't know what you're talking about." There was a brief, agonizing pause, a twist in her gut, as if the very air held its breath. "Behind the crates there's a hidden door," he urged, urgency spilling from his words. "You have to get out before they." Another thud cut him off, followed by the sound of splintering wood. Her pulse skipped. They were getting in. Quickly, she turned toward the stacked crates behind her, stealthily maneuvering through the dim confines of the room. With trembling hands, she pushed one aside, the wood scraping against the rough floor. Heart pounding, she strained to listen, every noise amplifying her fear, every creak and crack filling her with dread. There, a subtle shift in the wall, a barely noticeable seam where her fingers found the latch of the hidden door. Without thinking, she pulled it open, the hinges groaning under the weight of urgency, and rushed into the darkness beyond. The passage was narrow and suffocating, barely lit by the faint glimmers of the outside world filtering in. Her breath echoed in the tight space, each inhale feeling like a fight against an invisible enemy. She pushed through, driven by the singular need to escape, to find the old man and unravel his cryptic warnings. Behind her came the booming footfalls. The hunters were closing in, rage and malice radiating from them. She quickened her pace, feet pounding against the cold, unforgiving stone as she raced through the winding corridor. Then, just as she began to feel hope, the passage opened up into a larger chamber filled with eerie silence. In the dim light, she realized the room was unlike anything she had ever seen. Strange symbols covered the walls, and in the center stood an altar, adorned with artifacts that looked ancient and powerful. But what drew her in was the flickering orb, pulsing with an energy that vibrated through her. It felt both inviting and terrifying, sending a shockwave of anxiety through her veins. She took a step forward, captivated, but a sudden, gut-wrenching realization crashed over her. "What have you done?" A whisper ghosted through the chamber, chilling her to the bone. The old man's face flashed in her mind. What had he gotten himself into? Amidst the racing thoughts, she heard the echo of footsteps, the hunters now mere seconds away. She needed answers, but she also needed to escape. Would she be able to harness the power of the orb and confront the truth about the old man before it consumed them both? With courage she didn't know she had, Lila made her choice. She raised her hand toward the orb, ready to grasp hold of the secrets hidden within, but a sudden noise from behind her sent icy fear racing through her veins. What awaited her in this new realm could change everything or end it all. Lila's heart thundered in her chest as she stood before the pulsing orb, its soft glow illuminating the chamber in an otherworldly light. Shadows flickered against the walls, matching her fear as it spiraled deeper. This was no ordinary place. It felt alive, pulsating with an energy that both beckoned and threatened. She turned her head slightly to catch a glimpse of the exit. The footsteps grew louder, heavy boots thundering against the ground, sending reverberations up her spine. If she hesitated, she knew those men would find her. Yet the orb, glowing with power, felt like a promise, a way out. "What have you done?" The whisper echoed again, a voice filled with dread that was not her own. It was as if the very stones were warning her. But what choice did she have? With a deep breath, she stepped toward the orb, feeling its warmth crawl up her arm, pulling her in. Images flooded her mind, faces she didn't recognize, places she had never been, and a sense of urgency that gripped her gut. The hunters were almost here. Just as her fingertips brushed the surface of the orb, a loud crash shattered the quiet. The door she had slipped through burst open, and the silhouette of the first hunter appeared, a menacing figure outlined against the dim light. He roared as he rushed toward her, wild eyes filled with malice. Lila yanked her hand back, the orb flickering as if sensing her turmoil. "No, no, no," she whispered, panic clawing at her throat. The symbols on the walls seemed to shimmer, pulsing in sync with her racing heart. "Lila," the old man's voice rang out, clearer now, desperate. "You have to make a choice. The orb can protect you, but it demands a price." Before she could process his warning, the hunter lunged. Adrenaline surged, and she instinctively stepped back, her mind a whirlwind of fear and confusion. The orb flared bright, casting a blinding light that filled the chamber. It swallowed her whole, pulling her in. Suddenly, she was engulfed in a vortex of blinding light. Shapes twisted and morphed around her, and she felt herself losing grip on reality. Time stretched, seconds felt like eons. The chaos transformed into a painful clarity. A flood of knowledge surged through her. She saw the old man's past, darker than she could have ever imagined. His connection to the orb went beyond mere coincidence. He had made choices that had cost him dearly. Traitor, outcast. These were the whispers that surrounded him, binding her to a truth that made her stomach churn. And then she was ejected from the light, crashing onto cold stone. The room was eerily silent. The orb floated above her, pulsing with a gentle glow, now somehow calmer, as if awaiting her command. She glanced around. No sign of the hunter, but she could still feel the ominous weight of their intent lurking just beyond her reach. "You're trapped with the truth now," the old man's voice resonated, filled with a mixture of regret and hope. "Use it wisely." The weight of his words settled over her. The orb vibrated, responding to her tumultuous emotions. Could she harness its power? Would it bring her strength, or would it consume her like it had consumed him? Lila's gaze traveled back to the chamber, the symbols now pulsing with a different energy. Answers lay heavy in the air, tantalizing yet dangerous. She felt the old man's gaze upon her, filled with a mixture of guilt and warning. What was the price of the power it offered? Before she could confront the implications, a sound echoed from the corridor, footsteps approaching once more, this time accompanied by a low, menacing growl. The hunters were regrouping. Panic scorched through her, but she squared her shoulders, determination dawning. There was no turning back now. She would either wield this power or succumb to the darkness creeping at her heels that I in a heartbeat. She steeled herself. I have to know. As she reached for the orb again, the walls vibrated, and a new revelation soared to the surface. What if the orb was not just about power? What if it held the key to saving them all? Just then, a flash of energy shot across the chamber, and the ground trembled beneath her feet. Shadows coalesced, voices whispered, and she was left clinging to the edge of a revelation that could alter everything. Would she be able to unravel the truth before the hunters reached her? What awaited her next could either solidify her fate or lead to her ultimate undoing. The ground beneath Lila trembled, the energy from the orb sending shockwaves through the stone floor. She felt it pulse like a heartbeat, urging her as the hunters closed in, heavy footsteps echoing in her ears. Fear twisted in her gut, but so did resolve. Whatever this orb was, it could be her only weapon in this fight for survival. Lila, focus. The old man's voice rang in her head, urging her to embrace the power that surged through her veins, igniting a fire she didn't know she possessed. She steadied her breath, eyes locked on the orb. Uncertainty swirled in her mind, but the weight of truth she had glimpsed demanded action. Show me, she cried out, desperation fueling her words. Almost instantly, the orb flared brighter, illuminating hidden symbols that danced on the walls, revealing an ancient language woven with secrets. She reached out, fingers trembling, and as she touched the surface, a surge of images flooded her mind. Visions of battles fought, sacrifices made, and lives intertwined sprawled across the canvas of her consciousness. The old man as a younger man, standing fiercely against dark forces the moment he chose the orb, sealing his fate as both protector and prisoner. A sharp pang of empathy shot through her. She understood now that the price wasn't just power, it was sacrifice, loss, and perhaps the entrapment of one's spirit. Lila gasped as clarity broke through the chaos. I have to wield this power. I won't let it take me. She pulled back, closing her eyes, and a flicker of purpose ignited inside her. The growling from the corridor intensified, and she knew she had mere moments. Focusing on the orb, she felt an intense connection, as if it recognized her intentions. It responded to her thoughts, vibrant energy swirling around her like a protective cocoon. With newfound determination, Lila raised her voice. I command you, show me how to use this power. The orb reacted violently, bursting into rivulets of light that wrapped around her limbs, molding her to its will. The chamber hummed with energy, and she opened her eyes just in time to see shadows flicker in the doorway, the hunters poised to charge. Before she could second-guess herself, Lila thrust her arms forward. Light erupted from the orb, crashing into the stone of the chamber and illuminating every dark corner. The shockwave propelled through the air, spilling out into the corridor, disrupting the hunters' advance. They faltered for a split second, their menacing growls faltering, but it was enough. Lila felt the orb's energy coiling around her waist, a warm embrace that felt both foreign and comforting. This is my chance. She pushed forward, harnessing the wave of light to create a barrier between herself and the menacing figures. It shimmered, a fragile shield of luminescence. But as she focused, the energy seemed to twist, fraying around her edges. The orb throbbed, and the whisper returned, sharp and urgent. Take heed, Lila. Power untempered breeds chaos. Unleash it wisely, or it will perish you. The warning crashed against her like a wave, but determination held her firmer. The hunters regrouped, their shadows deepening, eyes glinting with rage. Lila found her voice as the light pulsed brighter, filling her with confidence. I don't fear you, she declared, echoing the strength of her ancestors, drawing on the energy coursing through her. I am not your prey. With that, she poured her will into the sphere of light, pushing against the encroaching darkness. The wall before her shimmered and shifted, the orb combining their fates, rippling with potential. But the tension surged as the hunters lunged forward, clawing through the brace of energy. Her heart raced, the moment unfolding like a thrilling cliffhanger. Would she have enough strength to face the hunters? Would she be able to unlock the deeper secrets of the orb before it betrayed her? The shadows loomed closer, ready to swallow her whole, as the energy around her reached a fever pitch. And just as she felt herself losing control, a figure appeared in the depths of the light, a glimpse of someone. Familiar. Could it be? Was it possible? Help me. Lila screamed, as fate dangled by a thread, ready to plunge into the unknown. Lila's mind swirled as the familiar figure became clearer through the blinding light. The ethereal glow illuminated the contours of the old man's weathered face. Grandfather? She strained to call out, wondering if her hopes were real or just a mirage created by desperation. Lila. His voice cut through the chaos like a ray of sunlight piercing a storm cloud. You must trust the orb. It's not just power. It's a bond, a connection to the past. The hunters pressed against her barrier, snarling and raking their claws against the shimmering force field. Fear gripped Lila's chest, but she couldn't allow herself to be paralyzed. I'm trying, but it's too much. I feel it threatening to consume me. Listen to me, he urged, his expression shifting from fear to fierce determination. The orb reacts to your emotions. Channel your fear into strength. You must remember who you are, who we are. Her heartbeat pounded in sync with the orb, thrumming like a war drum. Images flooded back into her mind, days spent in the old man's embrace, stories of heroism and trials of resilience. She felt the weight of her heritage. The power coursing through her was not just a weapon, but a legacy. With newfound resolve, she pushed against the fear clawing at her throat. I want to let it claim me, she shouted, and as her voice broke, a surge of warmth radiated from the orb. The shield flickered brightly, intensifying with the force of her conviction. Yes, that's it. Her grandfather's voice echoed within the confines of her mind. Let it flow through you. Lila felt the boundaries of her own spirit stretch. The glowing orb pulsated, responding eagerly to her command. She visualized the charge building like a tidal wave ready to crash, unleashing the energy beneath her skin. With a fierce cry, she thrust her arms forward again, this time channeling every ounce of her being into the light. The barrier erupted outward, swallowing up the dark figures of the hunters. Snarls turned to howls as they were consumed. Echoes of their fearful retreat filled the chamber, drowning in the brilliance of her unleashed power. But as the last of the hunters vanished into the shadows, the orb trembled and flickered. A deep, menacing whisper curled around her thoughts once more. Not all light is safe, Lila. For every action, there is a consequence. Panic licked at the edges of her newfound triumph. What does that mean? She clasped the orb desperately, hoping for clarity. The chamber shook with an ominous rumble, the walls beginning to fracture and splinter. Lila's grandfather's image flickered alongside her, and she could see the anguish knitting his brow. You've opened a door that can't easily be shut. Danger lies ahead. Danger? Who else is out there? She gasped, her own voice trembling now more than ever, bracing for whatever came next. His image faded, but before he disappeared completely, he shouted, Do not lose hope. The truth about the orb will guide you, but the greatest danger may come from within. As the chamber walls began to crumble, a realization set in, cutting like a knife. She felt not just the aftermath of her power, but the darkness sparking within her own heart. A chilling thought took root. What if the orb was more than protector? What if it harbored malice? The ground split beneath her feet, and as the floor gave way, Lila screamed, What have I done? The darkness yawned, ready to devour, but as she fell into the unknown, her mind raced with questions. What truths awaited her in the depths of the abyss? Would she emerge stronger or be consumed by the very power she sought to wield? And with the endless void engulfing her, one final thought echoed in her mind. Is there a way back? Lila plunged into the abyss, the chill of the void wrapping around her like a shroud. There was no sound, no light, just a profound sense of weightlessness, as if time and space twisted into a singular moment of dread. Just when she thought she couldn't breathe, something, an unseen force, pulled her down deeper. Her heart raced wildly. What awaited her below? Images of her grandfather flashed through her mind, the warmth of his smile, the richness of his storytelling, the strength of his embrace, but alongside those memories lurked a shadow she was reluctant to face. Was he truly the beacon of light she had always known? Or was he tangled in the very darkness she had begun to fear within herself? Suddenly, a flicker of light pierced the darkness, a ghostly glow that whispered promises of safety. Lila reached for it, her fingers brushing against its surface. It was the orb. She gasped as it responded, swirling with vibrant hues that seemed alive, weaving into intricate patterns that danced with her emotions. Lila. A voice echoed through the light, smooth and soothing, yet haunting. You must choose light or dark. She hesitated. The orb pulsed, urging her to decide. All around her, visions flooded in past mistakes, bitter regrets, decisions her heart had battled. She felt anger surge at herself, at her grandfather, at the hunters who had threatened her. Fighting against the tide of darkness rising within her, she dared to confront the swirling chaos. Why does it feel wrong? She shouted, her voice breaking in the ethereal expanse. Why can't I just take the power and be free? A deep rumble filled the air, vibrating through her bones. Power is a double-edged sword, Lila. What you desire may demand a price. A flood of memories consumed her, a vision of her grandfather's shadow shifting at the edge of the dark, his laughter mingling with whispers that felt all too human. In her gut, she sensed a connection not just to him, but to a lineage wrapped in pain and strength. The orb flickered at the corners of her consciousness, almost like a warning. With a surge of defiance, she grasped the orb tightly. I want tea, let it drown me. In that moment, the light transformed into a blinding force that illuminated the shadows, scattering the tendrils that threatened to overtake her. Gasps erupted from the darkness, as if long-imprisoned voices were echoing their last hopes. But the peace was fleeting. The light seemed to draw something in the distance, awakening it from slumber. A colossal figure emerged through the gloom, looming shadow melded with a smirk that twisted in delight. Ah! The girl awakened the fury, it hissed, voice slithering through the air. But those who wield power must pay for it. Will you pay, Lila? She recoiled, her heart pounding like a drum. Fear mingled with something deeper, a primal urge to fight. What do you want? I want you to embrace the dark within. The figure taunted, each word dripping with malice. Let go of that naive light. After all, darkness grants strength to those who dare wield it. No. The sheer force of her resistance sent ripples through the orb, igniting it with fierce brilliance. I will not give in. I'm my own master. But a looming doubt flickered at the back of her mind. What if her refusal meant losing everything? Caught between two realms, one bright and hopeful, the other seductive and powerful, she felt her grip slipping. The walls of the void trembled, echoing the struggle within her. Do you believe in your own strength, Lila? Or will you succumb to the darkness? With the colossal shadow closing in, panic surged. Was there a way out? A truth buried within her that could silence the chaos? She had to choose. And as the figure loomed closer, sinister laughter echoing in her ears, an urgent question seared into her mind. What secrets lie hidden in the dark? The figure loomed ever closer, its form shifting like smoke, but somehow solidifying in Lila's mind. She felt the oppressive weight of its gaze. Every pulse of the orb seemed to thrum with unyielding energy. Doubt gripped her tight as the sinister laughter echoed, warping into whispers that clawed at her sanity. Embrace your destiny, Lila, it hissed, a breath of ice on her neck. Your grandfather was not a mere storyteller. He was the keeper of power, and it flows through your veins. You have the potential to unleash it, to bend the darkness to your will. Something shifted inside her, a tempest brewing as old memories collided with new fears. The echoes of laughter morphed into her grandfather's voice. Power corrupts, Lila. Be wary of what you seek. But the shadow's seductive allure sang a different tune. The orb hummed as if attempting to sync with her heartbeats, urging her toward a choice that felt impossible. Unleash the fury, the figure crooned, its smile a dark crescent. Only then can you protect what you love. But what did she love? The cheerful memories of her childhood? The warmth of her grandfather's arms? The very essence of joy seemed a million miles away, swallowed by this abyss of uncertainty. Would reaching for the darkness heal her wounds, or would it deepen them? No, she yelled, shaking her head as tears began to well. I want to become a monster. Is that what you fear? That you might be like him? The figure's shadow danced, revealing whispers of betrayal and sorrow. You already share his blood. The darkness calls to you. Let it in that instant. The orb's colors merged, showcasing swirling patterns of light and shadow. They tangled around her, a storm of potential that ignited every nerve. She felt her resolve teeter as the figure stepped closer, looming larger than life. It spoke with an unnerving familiarity, each phrase wrapping around her like vines. You will face the consequences of your choice, child. But remember, power is not given, it's taken. A surge of rage pulsed through her. You think you can manipulate me? I am not a pawn in your game. Then face your truth, it hissed. The shadows around her rippled, revealing snippets of her grandfather's past. She saw him running, terrified. She saw him with dark eyes, casting spells, and calling upon forces that burned. The weight of his hidden world crashed into her like a tidal wave. No, she cried out again, shoving the fading images away. This isn't who I am. But the shadows morphed again, dredging up secrets she wasn't ready to confront. She saw him with blood on his hands, a mix of darkness and pleading eyes, calling out for forgiveness. You don't understand, Lila. I did what I had to do to protect you. The figure's voice intertwined with her grandfather's words, blurring the lines between them. Do you want the truth? It drawled, edging closer still. What secrets still lie within you? You seek to escape your fate, yet it is already written. You will become everything you dread. The orb burned brightly in her hand, reflecting the turmoil in her heart, yet it flickered dangerously. Maybe it didn't only hold light, but also the very depth of her fears. She stood at the precipice of revelation, an uncertainty wrapped around her like a ratchet strap. Will you confront the darkness? The figure challenged, beckoning her into the shadows. Or run from the truth that could shatter you. As the agony of indecision twisted her gut, Lila felt her grip falter. Who was she amidst the cacophony of past and potential? What horrifying truth lay buried, hidden in the darkness, waiting for her to uncover? Before she could think, she took a step forward. The shadows embraced her, pulling her into their depths. No, she screamed, but it was too late. And in that moment of surrender, a chilling thought emerged. What if the darkness was not just a part of her destiny, but a sinister ally? The corners of the abyss darkened as whispers grew louder, and Lila's heart raced with fear and fury. She had struck a deal with the unknown. What would it demand in return? The ground trembled beneath Lila's feet, shifting as the shadows closed in, their whispers clawing at her consciousness. But in that moment of despair, a surge of strength coursed through her. The orb pulsed with light, and she grasped it tightly, feeling warmth radiate from its core. The echoes of her grandfather's voice resonated in her mind, filling her with determination. You are not just a vessel of power, Lila. You are a beacon of hope. The dark figure before her twitched, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. You dare fight me? It hissed, a twisted grin revealing jagged teeth that glimmered like obsidian. I am not afraid of you, Lila shouted, her voice ringing out like a bell tolling through the abyss. The orb vibrated, responding to her defiance. It shimmered with brilliant hues, casting away the shadows, illuminating the darkness that threatened to drown her. You think this will save you? The figure sneered, advancing with predatory grace. The darkness will always whisper to you, always entice you. With unwavering resolve, Lila met its advancing gaze. Maybe, but it cannot control me. In that heartbeat, she latched onto the orb's essence, channeling every ounce of her fear into strength. The energy surged, wrapping around her, and she let it flow. With a resounding howl of defiance, she unleashed a pulse of light that shattered the oppressive air, sending the figure reeling. It howled in anger, the sound reverberating through the void, but the shadows recoiled, and amidst the chaos, clarity struck her like lightning. In that moment, she understood the truth of the orb. It was not merely light or dark. It was a balance, a bridge between two worlds that could only be controlled through compassion and understanding. Lila focused on the orb, visualizing her power as a conduit of connection rather than destruction. The beams of light poured forth, weaving through the shadows, illuminating the tormented souls lurking within. She saw them, a myriad of faces filled with confusion and fear, trapped in the darkness for too long. Release them, she shouted, her voice igniting with conviction. You are not prisoners to your past. The orb pulsed brighter, and as she spoke, tendrils of light extended from her fingertips, wrapping around the captive spirits. They gasped, their eyes widening in recognition, and as her compassion reached them, the shadows began to dissolve. Lila's heart ached for their suffering. She could feel their pain intertwining with her own. "What are you doing?" The shadow figure shrieked, its voice rising to a fever pitch. "You cannot save them." "Watch me," Lila replied, summoning every ounce of strength. The flames of hope ignited from within, and with one last burst of energy, the light erupted, consuming every shred of darkness, banishing the shadows from existence. Lila fell to her knees, breathing hard, the remnants of the darkness swirling away. The light flickered and dimmed, but a sense of relief washed over her. She had embraced her fears not by yielding to them, but by confronting them. Suddenly, warmth enveloped her. She looked up to see her grandfather's image materializing before her, untethered and free. His face radiated peace, his eyes glimmering with pride. "You have done it, Lila. You have chosen hope over despair." Tears of relief streamed down her cheeks. "I didn't do it alone, you were there with me." "No, child. You found the strength within yourself. You are both light and dark, and it is that very duality that will keep you grounded." His form began to dissolve, but the warmth wrapped around her like a comforting embrace, a promise of connection that transcended time. "Will I see you again?" she whispered, the question trembling on her lips. "Always, Lila. You carry me in your heart. But now, it is your life to live, your battles to fight." With that, a brilliant light enveloped her, lifting her into a new reality. Lila found herself standing in the small, dim courtyard where it all had begun. Rain gently fell, washing away remnants of the turmoil. She breathed in deep, feeling renewed clarity. Wash over her. The old man was gone, but his presence lingered like a gentle breeze. The city hummed around her, alive and pulsing. No longer a mere survivor, she was a guardian of the truth and keeper of the light. She felt empowered, ready to forward into the world with the weight of knowledge and the strength of her trials. "Thank you," she whispered into the night, looking up at the stars. They twinkled back, as if giving her their blessing. As she walked away from the shadows of the alley, she carried the light of hope within her. This battle was only the beginning. There were others out there, hidden truths waiting to be revealed. With purpose igniting her path, Lila stepped into her future, ready to face whatever lay ahead. And as she disappeared into the city, the echoes of her journey followed her challenges behind her, forever connected to the wise old man who changed her fate. Now it's your turn. If you enjoyed this wild ride, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep this community alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending, and instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support and be part of our journey. Don't wait even one more second.